So today I'm doing much better than I was yesterday. I'm grateful that my glass is back on because it's windy. I'm grateful to my boss who allowed me to take that time yesterday that I needed to take care of my mental health, my well-being. I just had this overwhelming feeling like, I think it was, just everything, anxiety. It was pretty bad yesterday, but one thing I wanted to kind of connect with you about are a lot of the coping skills and mechanisms and tools that I have, and how I've learned to not stay in that place that I was in yesterday, to self-soothe and heal. And it's definitely not easy, but yesterday I took the time. I went to I bought a journal. I went to the beach. I wrote in my journal. I drew a little picture for Hannah. I cried. I didn't really talk to anybody aside from, some people I would encounter when I was there, but I did my best to stay off of social media, and even, messaging my parents to tell them I was really just trying to make it through on my own, and it seemed to work. But a turning point for me that happened when I was going through the hardest parts of mediation, when I could tell that things were not going to be going in a positive direction, a direction for the benefit of Hannah. When I could tell that my ex-husband and his attorney had done a really good job at conveying and convincing the mediator that it would be better for Hannah to not have me around. It was that particular day in May of 2013 that there was that moment of devastation and breakdown, and kind of realized I needed to start taking care of myself, because the only thing that I can really control is myself and my actions and my health and my well-being in my life. And for too long I was living under the fear and threat that my ex-husband always had over me, that he was going to try to take my daughter from me. So what I did was I changed. At that point I was about 60 pounds overweight. So thanks to a good friend of mine, Kevin and Danielle, good friends of mine, who introduced me to paleo, and then connecting with my mom. My mom kind of got on board immediately with paleo. She thought it would help some of the health issues she was having. And so she jumped on the paleo bandwagon, followed by my father. And within a week I started removing the processed foods and carbs and sugars and dairies from my diet. I was also going to yoga. Yoga was instrumental as well. Having an amazing support system that I have with my family. I'm very fortunate and blessed with that. And my friends. And then I also amped up my exercise routine. I started going to personal training. So thanks to Giselle and Dave, and shout out to Synergy Personal Fitness in Elk Grove. Anybody in Sacramento looking for a good place to work out, you should check them out. Anyway, because of that, I also then trained for Tough Mudder, thanks to Eric Contreras for asking me to join. So I did Tough Mudder in September of 2013, and that was a very empowering moment. Training for something, facing your fears, and coming away feeling kind of invincible. I feel with this alienation, being separated from Hannah, from the beautiful beautiful person and beautiful soul and spirit that Hannah is. She's a light in this world, and so to be separated from her and to survive it, I kind of feel like I have nothing to fear. I have nothing to lose. I've already lost like the most important person in my life, but not permanently, I hope. Anyway, so Tough Mudder, friends, exercise, diet, yoga, reconnecting to source, also participating in, I'm fortunate enough that I got involved in Aztec dance thanks to Angelica and Maestro, and also to Raz, who invited me. I went to Sweat Lodge, so a lot of my healing has kind of come about in that way, and also through Facebook, connecting with all the alienated people that I have, all the amazing advocates like Wendy Archer, now Wendy Perry, Joe Barrow, Jaco, having gone to the ISNAF meeting and meeting Linda Gottlieb in person, and then going to the parental alienation think tank in Texas, and meeting the amazing Rod McCall, who shared his story, which is the worst tragic story and outcome that a parent, anybody, could ever live through. And he's living, and he's making it his mission to raise awareness. And so I think for me that's another element, that another layer to me being strong and healing myself. Is the only option I have, is to speak up and is to try to help others, and that's something that I actually want to make a mission and part of my life, is to be here for others and to help other people who are in the desperate, dark places, to know there is hope, and not to give up. Life can be beautiful. You just have to return to the things that bring you joy. Start a gratitude journal in the morning. Write down 5 things that you're thankful for. At night, write down 5 things, or as many as you can think of. But sometimes that can be hard when you're feeling hopeless. The risk and the rate of suicide among alienated parents, and I'm sure also among alienated children, is very high. So we need to change the perception of alienated parents, targeted parents. When you hear a story, I'm asking this to the general public, when you hear a story, someone tells you, oh, I'm a single dad, or I'm a single mom, and the parent has abandoned their child. That can happen. And there are parents who choose to walk away. There are parents that abandon their children. There are parents who are drug addicts and murderers that, you can say, okay, we can understand why why it would be detrimental to have you in the life of your child. However, that wasn't me, and it's not most of the parents that I know. All of the parents that I know, they're loving, and they want nothing more than to be with their children, and they're fighting for the right. Why should you have to fight for the right to be in your children's life? The system is set up that the person that gets the most time, so what I mentioned in a video with the Walk for Lost Kids last week, by my ex-husband getting full custody, though he makes 4 times the amount I make, which means that he makes a very decent wage, enough to live on. He didn't need my money, but by taking by the way the system's set up, him getting full custody, I had to pay 25% of my income, which meant it wasn't enough to survive on. It wasn't enough to live. So that meant I had to move. I moved in, thankfully, with my parents. So I had to move 2 hours away back home. I'm living with my parents at their place. And that's what I've been doing for nearly 2 years. I did pay my child support, so my obligation according to the court is, and to my daughter that way, is done. There are other things that I will be doing for my daughter, setting money aside for her for when she comes back around. But the fact that, again, that there's really no penalty for the parents that are keeping the children away. Why are they not fined? I don't get it. So something needs to change in the system. But anyway, enough of the system. See, that's where it gets heavy for me. It's also about balance and work-play balance. And, you know, I think that's also partly what depleted me yesterday was, again, I mean, I'm glad. I don't regret any of the advocacy or walking with Patrick. That was fantastic, actually, and meeting Carlos and Ben. But there's an element of balance in how much we can actually give to others. We have to make sure that we keep ourselves replenished. And anyway, so that's a little bit of what I wanted to say today. Again, unscripted. I'm still looking at myself and realizing I have no makeup on. I have dark circles, but here we are. We're at the park. This is where I work, Scotts Valley. This is McDorsa Park. Actually, right behind me, over here, hold on, that is a police station. I think maybe one of these days I'll have to go in and talk to them about what happens when they go to try to enforce a visitation. What do they do? What happens if the teenager doesn't want to go? Anyway, I'd be interested to know if you want to comment on this video, share it. That'd be awesome. You know, the more awareness that we can raise, the better. But I'd be interested to know, what things are you doing? How are you coping? How are you surviving? And if you don't even know the answer to that, what can you do? What things can you start doing? I'd like to also, I'm walking over here, and I'm going to show you guys something because it's pretty cool. This woman here is blowing bubbles. There's a bunch of bubbles there. I don't know if you can see, but she's blowing bubbles with her kids. So bubbles of love. And hoping that all of you have a good day. And yeah, please reach out and let me know. Let's start this conversation. How can we take care of ourselves through this darkest pain that we're all suffering? Talk to you later. Stay strong.